All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Sebastian Boyer, the approved guy, and we are live. This is going to be the first series of YouTube lives on legacy. This first episode is What Does Legacy Mean to You? So, with
The
that,
teen year.
I want to just thank you all for joining me tonight. And if you're going to watch this on the replay, definitely make sure you comment, make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and let someone know who will let someone know about this content and the information I'm sharing and teaching. I'm looking to basically bless everyone with the knowledge and information that I've found that is helping me on my journey financially, as a steward, as a man of God, as a family man, as a husband, as a father, as someone who, for me, what I've come to find is the most important thing is my legacy. And so, what does legacy mean to you? That's the topic of tonight's conversation: is what does legacy mean to you? So legacy means a lot of things to different people. It has different meanings, different value. If you're watching now, please comment in the chat. Just let me know, what does legacy mean to you. If you're watching on the replay, let me know, what does legacy mean to you. For some people, legacy means the money that they leave behind, the assets they leave behind. So for some people, it's more than that. It's their values, it's their beliefs, it's the recipes in the cookbook, it's the experiences, traveling, the time spent in intimate moments at the dinner table. These are all different ways of leaving a legacy, and to each one of us, it means a different thing, because we all have different values and beliefs. None of us are identical and the same, and no one's right or wrong as to what you believe legacy is. But I plan on taking you through a series of thoughts and questions here tonight to really help you to think about legacy. And again, this is the first first session that we're having, and we're going to build on this session as we continue with this conversation about legacy. Now, don't forget, you can access my new masterclass, the course Legacy Generation System, at legacygenerationsystem.com. And if you're an agent out there and you're looking to become a part of a team that is helping people with honesty, integrity, and education, then check out kingdomfinanceteam.com and schedule a call for us to talk about you joining the team. If you're somebody watching this and you have questions about some of the topics that we're talking about, schedule a free consult, and I'm happy to spend time with you and just educate you on some of the solutions, and really help you to get aligned with your own values and your beliefs, because that's what it comes down to. The most important thing is identifying what are your values, what are your beliefs, how are you living your life in relation to your values and beliefs, in your relationships, in your health, in your business, in your finances, and all these different ways. And if there's a gap between what you actually value and believe and what you're doing or how you're living your life, then how can you close that gap? What steps do you need to do? Sometimes, it's just becoming aware of it. Sometimes you have to take intentional action to close the gap. Sometimes you need help. You need a coach or certain tools that are going to help you to bridge that gap. So I'm happy to spend time with anyone who needs that support and help. So what does legacy mean to you? Please let me know in the chat. What does legacy mean to you? So now, as we continue with this conversation, again, I'm going to be transitioning into the next slide here. And this is a Bible verse, because this is what legacy means to me, because I agree with what the Bible says. The Bible says that a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, right? A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. And so, for me, legacy is what I leave behind for my children and for their children. It's the inheritance, and it's not just the financial, but it's my values, it's my beliefs, it's my faith, it's the systems that I'm going to put in place while I'm alive here on earth, so that they have a system and a methodology, a system to live by, um, where they are not trying to figure out how to do life, but I'm going to literally create a constitution for my family. And you can do the same thing. and creating that constitution with rules and laws on how your family conducts themselves, their code of ethics, um, how to borrow money, how to leverage money, how to build wealth, diet, nutrition, all of these things are things that you can create in your legacy, in your family constitution, and leave it as a legacy for your children and your children's children. So for me, that's what legacy means. I was watching a show yesterday. It was really interesting. It was a show about time travel, and it was a powerful statement that somebody made in the show. And that statement was that the future is more powerful than the past, and that is your legacy. Your future is more powerful than your past, and that is your legacy. Just think about that. Your future is more powerful than your past, and that is your legacy. Sadly, unfortunately, it's estimated that 70% of generational wealth doesn't make it past the second generation, and 90% disappears by the third generation. That is a very sad truth. Now, there's a reason it's like that. I'm going to explain that to you. And that is why I created this course, because the only way to change that trajectory is by having knowledge. The Bible says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. So having the information is the first step. So what I'm sharing with you right now is the hierarchy of financial needs. The hierarchy of financial needs is based off of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow was a 19th century historian that did research. He wasn't a historian, I'm sorry. He was a psychologist. And if you study psychology, you'll know who he is. He's probably, first chapter of your first semester of university, of college. And Abraham Maslow did a study. He researched and interviewed people from all walks of life all around the planet, and found that we all have the same basic human needs. And so New York Life Insurance Company hired a financial expert and a psychologist. They put their minds together, and they took Maslow's hierarchy of human needs and translated it into this hierarchy of financial needs. And what we see here in this hierarchy of financial needs is at the very bottom, at the base of the financial needs pyramid, we have cash flow and basic needs. Cash flow and basic needs. So when we get out of high school, when we get out of college, before we earn any money and we have anything saved, our very first priority is food, housing, transportation, and our daily expenses. So we seek to just earn enough income to cover those basic needs. Now, once we have those basic needs met, we then graduate to the next level, which is financial safety. This is where we're seeking to create an emergency fund, as well as to have our basic insurance, basic life insurance, basic health insurance, car insurance, or any other insurance that we need to protect ourselves. So basic financial safety is what we look for here at the next level. And that emergency fund is in this section of your financial safety. The next level up is accumulating wealth. This is where we start thinking about taking our money and investing it in assets and building wealth through investments. This is also where we start thinking of paying off debt strategically and being very aggressive to pay off debt, as well as starting to save money for retirement and getting ready for our retirement years. So that's our accumulating wealth phase. And then we graduate to financial freedom. Financial freedom is where we now start thinking about long-term care. We're thinking about later on when we're 80 years old, 90 years old, and if we're going to be in bed or we're not able to care for ourselves, who's going to take care of us in those senior years, right? When we're not able to care for ourselves. We're also thinking about not just retirement and expenses, but savings and having money in retirement to be able to live life in freedom, right? Because we don't want to just be slaves in retirement to the expenses, but we want to be able to live our life in our retirement and have freedom to take vacations, pay for our grandkids' birthday parties, or do the things that we want to do without being worried about running out of money. And ultimately check off our bucket list, right? So that's financial freedom. And then finally, our highest level is our legacy. This is where, as business owners, we start thinking about succession planning, tax planning, and estate planning. Everybody should be thinking about that. Now, what's very interesting is we're not just on one of these levels. We're all a blend, a fusion of these different levels. We're all some in some more in one level than the other, but we're all a fusion of these levels. Now, the problem is the reason why that statistic that says that 70% of generational wealth is squandered by the second generation, and it's actually 90% is squandered by the third generation, is because what happens is people that are born into legacy, people that are born into situations where they have wealth that is given to them, usually our parents or the parents, that first generation, worked really hard to build that wealth. So what do? We 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 um we we give our kids everything and we don't make them earn it, right? We spoil them. That's what I'm trying to look for. We spoil our kids. And so in spoiling them, we think we're doing something good because we want them to have the life that we didn't have. That's what we say. But what we're actually doing is we're not teaching them the fundamentals that are required to sustain wealth. So that means instead of them having to go through the process of cash flow and basic needs at the bottom of that pyramid, and instead of them having to understand and save for financial safety, they're born into a world where they're in a accumulating wealth mind state or a financial freedom mind state, and that's really where their mind state is. Now, that's not a bad thing if you have a strong foundation. But if you don't have a strong foundation, then when you're in the accumulating wealth and financial freedom mind state, then you're going to take higher risks on investments, and you're going to spend money without any discretion to enjoy yourself because you don't understand the value of cash flow and basic needs or financial safety. And so therefore, our children that are born into first or second generation wealth without systems in place to teach them financial stewardship, to teach them how to handle and manage money, and to teach them the fundamentals, unfortunately, they're squandering the wealth by the second and third generation. 90% of the wealth is squandered. And that's why. It's because their mind state is in accumulating wealth and financial freedom. So it's our responsibility, for those of us who are building wealth in this generation right now. And that's why I call this program the legacy generation system, because you're generating the wealth for the legacy in this generation to leave it for the next generation. So the word generation has multiple meanings here. So this is your legacy generation system. If we work hard to build wealth and we don't put systems in place to allow that wealth to be protected for the next generation, then it will be squandered. The chances are it will be squandered. And so it's our responsibility, and we can do that. We can protect our wealth from the next generation squandering our wealth. So the first pillar of the legacy generation system, and this is where we're going to talk about tonight, is pillar number 1, your personal wealth philosophy. Know thyself and build with purpose. Know thyself and build with purpose. Alignment is everything, folks. Alignment is everything. Think of if your back is out of alignment, you go to a chiropractor, right? If your car is out of alignment, you go to the mechanic. Why? Because if it's not in alignment, you're trying to go straight and you go this way, you start veering to the right. If it's not in alignment, you're going to have pain, and it's going to have a symptom that manifests in another place in your body. If you have a spinal, your spine is not aligned, it could affect your seeing. It could affect pain in your knees and your arms, and you get yourself into alignment, and all of a sudden your vision becomes clear and the pain goes away. If you get your vehicle, your car aligned, it's not going to veer to the right anymore. It's going to stay straight on its path. So alignment is everything. And that's why I started the legacy generation system with this pillar, personal wealth philosophy, because this pillar is about getting into alignment, starting with your values and your beliefs, and then getting into alignment with those values and those beliefs. So you have to identify your core values: faith, family, freedom, security, legacy, contribution, and know what matters the most to you. This is a process that I take you through if you decide to go through a one-on-one with me, where I provide coaching to really dive deep into helping you to identify and understand your core values. These are the fundamental surface values that I'm presenting to you now. But when we go onto a one-on-one, we're going to dive much deeper. Uncovering your money mindset. Are your habits rooted in scarcity or abundance? Do you see money as a source of freedom, power, or responsibility? The Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil. Money itself is just a tool, but the love of money is the root of all evil. Do you love money, or are you using it as a tool? Are you living with scarcity, or are you living in abundance? A lot of people think that being humble, being poor is being humble, and that if you just be content with what you have, you could have a good life. And I don't disagree. We all have a different level of what gives us peace. But one thing we should never do is that we should never stop growing. We should never stop moving forward and trying to be better, to do better. And if that translates into increasing wealth, then so be it. It doesn't mean that your purpose and focus is to build wealth. But if you're constantly improving yourself, educating yourself, and doing the things that are allowing you to become the best version of yourself, there's a high probability that your income will follow your growth. Most likely, even if you're a W-2 income earner, most likely, if you continue to develop yourself, you will increase wealth, because wealth follows value. And as you increase in value, it's just the laws of nature, it's the laws of the universe. Wealth will follow value. So the idea of being humble and being content is actually a very scarcity mindset, which is rooted in the love of money, not the opposite. Having a desire for abundance does not mean you love money. It means that you seek to improve yourself and grow. Where scarcity, think of it. What are you doing? You're hoarding. You're holding it back. You're scared to spend. You're afraid to help other people. You're afraid to do things with your money because you don't want to lose that money. So though in your mind you don't think you love that money, not only do you love it, but it controls you. You're a slave to it. So how do you break that chain? By becoming abundant in your mindset. How do you become abundant? By improving yourself, growing as an individual, reading books, becoming healthier, taking classes, educating yourself. Instead of spending all of your time when you're not working just looking for pleasure and entertainment, use that time in a way that makes you a smarter, better person. And by doing that, the value of yourself will increase. And in that increase, wealth will follow you. It will chase you down if you improve yourself. But if you stop learning, you stop growing, and all you do is spend your time looking to please yourself and entertain yourself, there's no growth, then your mind state becomes scarce, and all you do is hoard your assets, hoard your money, and you're afraid to give, you're afraid to help other people because you don't want to run out. So do you see money as a source of freedom? Do you see it as power, or is it a responsibility? So defining your why is the deeper purpose behind building your wealth, so that your financial strategy is driven by intention, not reaction. Most of us, we are reactive. When something happens, we then respond, versus planning in advance and having our money and our wealth in a system that allows us to move with intention and not be reactive. So when things happen that are unexpected, we have the necessary reserves to be able to respond with intention. And not only can we help ourselves, but we can help others. That's the bigger picture, folks. If all we're thinking about is me, myself, and I, that's a very small world to live in. But when we start thinking about how can I help other people, and if I have abundance, how much more can I help other people? That changes your perspective. That gives you a deeper purpose behind building wealth. So not only am I building wealth for my children and my children's children, but I'm also building wealth for my community, for my friends, for my family, for my network, my connections. Who can I bless? Not just with finances, but with knowledge, with experience. Sometimes just by listening. Who can I bless? The one thing that money helps with, that you can, is the most valuable thing, asset that we have, is time. And if we're always working just to hoard our money, then we don't have time. The one thing that the enemy steals from me and from you is our time. If he can get you busy, if he can get you focused on things that don't matter, arguing with people about your political views, arguing with people about nonsense that doesn't put bread on the table for your family and doesn't increase your health and your wealth, then what he's doing is he's stealing your time. And then before you know it, 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years pass by in a heartbeat. And you look back and say, wow, where did the time go? And what did I do with it? What do I have to show for all of that time? The one thing the enemy comes to steal more than anything else is your time. Take back control of your time. And the way you do that is by being a good steward of your wealth. Because if you can be a good steward of your wealth, you can buy back your time. Instead of working for money, make money work for you. Find ways to create passive income by investing in assets that create passive income. And this will allow you to buy back your time. Now, there's also a trade. At first, you may have to put more time up front. You may have to spend a year or 2 or 3 committing all of your time so that for the rest of your life, you can have freedom. What are you willing to do in the short term to buy back your time for the rest of your life? And that's the difference. Most of us are not willing to do what it takes in the short term. Short term sacrifice, long term gain. Most of us don't do that. We do the opposite. We look for the pleasure now and we sacrifice the gain later. 30 years pass and we ask, where did the time go? Strategic wealth structures, using vehicles like wealth reserve contracts, trusts, and tax optimized systems to make your money work in harmony with your purpose. This is part of the system. This is part of the wealth, your legacy generation system. It's actually a few of the pillars. Wealth reserve contracts is number 2. I'll leave that. I'm gonna leave some mystery. So either you can go check out the masterclass. It's free. Again, legacygenerationsystem.com, or see me next week and we're gonna get into pillar number 2. And then the week after that, we're going to go to pillar number 3. But these are some of the tools that you use in your wealth reserve and your legacy generation system to be able to harness and control your wealth. And impact over income. Measuring your success by the positive change that you create for your family, your community, and causes that you care about, not just the dollar amount in your account. So most of us are just looking at how much is in that account. But what's more valuable, the amount of money you have in the account or what you were able to do in your life, the contribution, how you helped other people? What is the legacy that you leave behind? How are you going to be remembered? The guy that had a lot of money that did nothing for anyone, or the person who, with what they had, was the most impactful of everyone else around them? Measure your success by the positive change that you create for your family, your community, and the causes that you care about, not just the dollar amount in your account. So I'm going to end this off tonight with highlighting a nonprofit. My good friend Sean Rowe, on September 20th, ran 70 miles from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. at night to raise money for the Wounded Warriors Project. His company, or his brand, is Run to Redemption. You can check him out at Sean Rowe _senior on Instagram. On YouTube, it's just at Sean Rowe Senior without the underscore. And you can see the run, and he's raising money to help wounded warriors, the men and women who have given their lives, sacrificed their lives for you and me as U.S. citizens so that we can have freedom in this country, that are forgotten about, that come back from war damaged physically, mentally, emotionally, and they're forgotten about. No one is helping them. Well, the Wounded Warriors Project is helping them, and Sean is trying to raise $10,000 right now for the Wounded Warriors program through his Run to Redemption. Again, he just did 70 miles on September 20th. You could check it out on his YouTube channel. You could check it out on Instagram, and he's going to be running again at the end of this month. His goal is to do 100 miles on his next run. So I just want to highlight that, because what he's doing is what we should all be doing, helping each other out. I just want to end this session tonight with a legacy affirmation. This is the legacy affirmation that I've created in the legacy generation system. So if you go to the legacygenerationsystem.com, you can get a copy of this. You'll be able to download the workbook. And this is something that you want to say every day. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am the steward of my family's wealth, wisdom, and values. I choose ownership over dependency, discipline over doubt, and purpose over fear. Every dollar I direct today multiplies freedom for tomorrow. I build, protect, and pass on a legacy of faith, family, and freedom. And I will not quit. I will not quit until that legacy is secured for generations to come. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in on my live stream. If you were chatting during the live stream, I apologize. I had a little technical difficulties, so I was unable to see the chats, but I will fix that before the next event. So please make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Let someone know who will let someone know about this content. I'm going to be live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. like clockwork. Next week, we're going to be talking about your wealth reserve contract, which is pillar number 2 of your wealth reserve system. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you. Take great care.